Alright, so buckle up everyone because this next story time is going to be a doozy. It's going to be a long one, so get a snack, get a beverage, get hydrated. I may cut it up into two parts, maybe not. If I get it edited down to a reasonable amount of time, like down to the longest video I have now, which I think is 25 minutes, then I'll leave it as one part, but if I cannot, I'll make it two. I'm just warning you. It's gonna be a long story. Alright, here we go. Okay, so yeah, I don't know what happened to my filters page. Turned off all the settings. Somebody's probably me. Well, I'm gonna open the blinds and see if that helps because I am currently blue. Okay, now it looks like the filter is on. Okay, this is gonna be a long one. I'll probably do it in two parts. The next story kind of starts, well, there's a prologue, but the main part of it starts on the 4th of July. So it's going to be a 4th of July story. So I thought I'd do it now and then edit it and schedule it to come out on the 4th. I was going to do my makeup, but I didn't give myself enough time to get up and do my makeup. Why does it look like my eyebrow is just gone? It's not that bad. Anyway, yeah, my niece will be here soon. I should have got up an hour earlier, like my alarm was set to do. But I turned it off and went back to sleep. And he's gonna whine, and I'm just gonna have to deal with that. He's a whiner. He whined all morning while I was getting dressed because I would not get up and let him out without putting my shoes on at least. Because the last time I didn't do that, and I went to let him out. He nearly knocked me over and almost stripped out my cat. So, yeah, so he whined the whole time I did that, and then I went to let him out, and all he was going to do was stare out into the yard. I had to make him go off the porch, and then he was about to go pee and saw the neighbor guy over in his little garden, stopped what he was doing, and ran over to the fence to bark at the guy. That's been my morning. I was going to talk about the story. I kind of envisioned it last night. I was like dreaming about how I was going to do this whole video. I might do the second part, like I wish, because I was going to do crafts while I talked. I don't have time because my niece will be here in like an hour, maybe less. Let's start off by saying I got them dropped off around 9. I think I got casting and the dropped off at the exact same time. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. I'm going to look up the records. My chart app. Dr. Sheldon was the one that did it. I loved him. He was a great doctor. So I got that. And I remember after the surgery, I'm in my room and they pumped me full of fluids since before the surgery. And you know, they make you come in 2 hours before your surgeon even bothers to show up. So at least one of you was ready. I had to pee very badly, but they wouldn't let me go. They wouldn't let me do it until he got there. And of course, he was somewhere else in the hospital and I had to wait. I thought I was going to burst waiting for him. It was like, you guys went through all this trouble to put this new stoma in so I could pee easier, just to not let me pee, and now it's gonna burst. But he made it, and I made it. And I don't remember how the stoma felt. I remember later on when I was living in my apartment, they had to do something to the stoma, and it literally felt like raw hamburger for the first 2 weeks while I was healing. Which made it very difficult to calf because I had to do it by feel and by touch because in my apartment I didn't have a way to set up the mirror. I tried so that I could do it through the mirror, so that I had to do it by feel, and the first 2 weeks were so difficult. I don't remember what I had done to it, but it felt like raw hamburger. Like maybe they resized it or something. I don't think it was reconstructed. So I don't remember it feeling like that when they first put it in. So I'm holding it, I'm holding it, and he finally gets there, and I do the calf. It was fine. Blah, blah, blah. To about 7, 8 years ago, still living in my apartment, and I'm trying to be very, very healthy. I was going to bed on time, getting up at a reasonable hour, exercising. I was eating healthily. I cut out pop like altogether. I was drinking green tea, Lipton green tea, and water, mostly flavored, but I was drinking water. I was allowing myself, like, I would get like a giant candy bar. I would go for the Hershey cookies and cream bar, put it in my freezer so it was out of sight, out of mind. Just take a piece, break off a piece every day around dinner time, and that was my sugar, my candy for the day. After 2 weeks of not drinking the pop, that was a hard 2 weeks because caffeine withdrawals. I had like the worst headaches the first 2 weeks, but after I got past that point, it was okay. Didn't need the pop. Wasn't really craving it. So I was doing all of that. It was 4 months, and I had lost 22 pounds. And I was drinking. I dropped the pop. I was drinking the water and the green tea because in my 20s I had a lot of problems with kidney stones. I had at least 3 lithotripsies to break them up. So perhaps that's what led to this. Just multiple times. And the scar tissue was starting to become a problem. Apparently, it lays dormant, and then just one day, it'll start being painful. I just learned that this year. Because I've been drinking pop like forever, since I was a kid. So the fact that it didn't affect me until my late 20s is amazing. So yeah, I was doing that, trying to avoid kidney stones, drinking lots and lots of water. I was flushing them out because I was passing them like little fragments of them. Perhaps that contributed too. So like little solid razor blades just like floating through your bladder, which by the way looks like a sea anemone. More on that later. So one day, it was 4th of July weekend about 3 years ago, and I was living with my grandma. She was still with us at the time. My parents had already moved next door, so we were going to eat over there because they have, let's say, more room. They have a longer kitchen. They have like a long, it's wooden, but it's like business room style table. It's really long. It's a ton of chairs. It accommodates 12 people in my immediate family, and then my uncle and his 3 kids and his wife. Well, they didn't accommodate everybody. There was a few people that ended up standing or eating in the living room. But I remember at one point, I don't remember if this was after eating with the family or what, but I go into the bathroom to cath, and I get resistance. It won't go past a certain point, and I pull it out. There's blood in the tip of the catheter. I try one more time, and it happens again, and I begin to panic. So, my mom takes me to the ER. She's usually the person that does. Grandma did one time in recent years. It was like right after this SP2. I was having an issue with it, and I refused to go to the ER before I went to the grocery store. I wanted to get that done and over with because I know how long it usually takes in the ER. It can take hours. Let's go to the grocery store, then you can drop me off, take the groceries back to the house, and then like somebody like mom can come and get me. That was that time. But this time, mom took me. As usual, she took me, and course, we sat around forever, waiting, just to be talked to in the room. Once we go back to usually the waiting time, there's 3 ERs that I've been using. There's the 15 minutes away one, the 30 minutes away one, and then there's the one all the way downtown, which is usually like 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic. We went to the 30 minutes away one, which I have since crossed off the list. I'm not really a fan of it anymore. Other things have happened. Wait in the room. My bladder is full. I have not calved in several hours. I know this. I have said this. They finally come in because they have to find the supplies to be able to calve me. Because of course they don't have that handy. They never have that stuff handy. It drives me crazy. They have the latex versions of all this stuff I need. They never have the non-latex versions of the stuff I need handy, except for gloves, because those are like mandatory. Like non-latex gloves are mandatory now. So many people have gotten the allergy. And I imagine with COVID, more people are probably getting it now as well. I wonder, I might look that up here. So they finally get all the supplies and they go to cap me through this stoma. And it felt like it just like caved in. It didn't, but she was like, yeah, it's infected. Like the skin was infected. And then at that point they were like, we're not going to do anything else. That's it. We're not going to touch it. They decide that I should go to the 45-minute to an hour away one. And they were like, do you want to drive down there or should we get an ambulance to take you? We opted for the ambulance. My mom would drive down behind us. And I remember as soon I had to stand up to get onto the gurney. I hate that. I should not have had to do that. I don't understand why they couldn't have. I don't understand when you're in that much pain, having to get up off one gurney. Being as short as I am 5 foot. That's it. That's as tall as I am. It is so hard for me to get on and off those beds, and they never have one of those little footstools. I like the ones with the handle. They never have those, like ever. Every great once in a while, nice person will go, do you want one of those footstools with the big long handle? And I'm like, yes, please. Yeah, please get that. But they never have it in the ER. I think maybe they did the last time I went. Like somebody dawned on them to ask me if I needed that. So I stand up. My bladder voids a little bit. Like it had been doing that. It had been like spasming the whole time I was there. It was trying to empty itself. And I have an overactive bladder. I was taking Ditropan, but it hadn't been working for quite a long time. I've stopped taking it since. I knew Dr. Mahdi, he let me try not taking it for a few weeks to see if there was any difference. And I came back and I said, nope, there's not been a difference. So it's like, okay, I think it's okay for you to stop taking it. So that was after that I did the first Botox injection. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. So I stood up, paid myself a little, got into the gurney, and I don't remember if the aunties gave it to me or if they gave it to me once I got to university, but somebody gave me a dose of a pain medication. I'm not sure if it really helped or not. Like, here's how it made me feel. I immediately felt like my entire body was 500 pounds heavier. Like I had all these chains connected to all my limbs, and connected to the chains were these big cement blocks pulling me down. That is how this pain medication made me feel, but at the same time, it made me not care about that. But I can't tell if it helped or not. Like, I don't think it did, but at the same time, I didn't care. That's how it made me feel. Oh, what did they do? We got in there, and they finally let my mom back, because at university, they don't let the people that come with you come back right away. They take you back to triage and ask you all the questions after you've come in and registered and waited. I got in there on an ambulance, so I got to go back right away. They finally let mom back, and I was waiting patiently in a room. Sort of. It was curtained off. I wouldn't really call it a room, honestly. It was a divider area. And she, instead of saying Curtis Sheldon, which is the doctor who did the surgery for the metrophenoff, she said Sheldon Cooper, and that made me laugh. Thankfully, it didn't register on the doctor's radar, me laughing. What they ended up doing was, I think, putting me on an antibiotic, and they put a catheter in my urethra, which is so not fun, especially with scar tissue. It's not fun. It doesn't necessarily hurt going in or coming out, for that matter, but just being in, it hurts. Like if you move around, it touches all the scar tissue. Ugh, hurts. So I don't know. The SP2 doesn't do that. I can't explain it. So yeah, that happened. Oh, and shortly after that, I had to go. I went to the doctor, and at the time, I was going downtown to that university, and my current doctor operates out of there, but not that clinic. It's a different. He has a whole separate office, a nicer one in a different part of the building, and he operates out of a different place. It's closer. It's still a long drive, but it's closer. At least I feel like it is. Also, nobody told me ever in my entire life since I've had a Foley of some sort or stoma of some sort, has anyone ever told me that it can close up if you stop using it for a certain period of time? And that never registered in my brain because nobody said anything like that to me. Some things you have to tell me. I need to be told some things. I just it doesn't make any for me to like just know things. Some things are common sense to me, some things are not. You might think that this would be common sense, but it wasn't to me. The one thing that had been drilled into me the first time I had a Foley in my stoma was to be careful because it can be pulled out, even with the balloon. Even being with the balloon being attached to the wall, which it was when I first had the stoma put in. Like I had two experiences. First was several years ago. It's been about 12 years now. I remember my grandpa was sick. He's since passed away. And I was over here at my grandma and grandpa's, and they had lots of dogs. And I opened the door, and one of the dogs tried to rush in ahead of me and pulled on my catheter. It didn't pull on the part that was inside my bladder, thankfully. It just disconnected the catheter from the drainage bag. It had literally been like a nightmare since I had been told that could have, like, the catheter could be pulled out. So I panicked and I cried a little bit, and my grandma saw it, and she stopped. And she consoled me. So, okay. And then I was immediately scolded by my uncle. He was like, she didn't need you to do that, blah, blah, blah. She's got enough to worry about. I'm like, you don't know what kind of fear I just had. That was scary. Like, well, not big, a balloon in my bladder, filled with water, going through a small hole about this big. Like, that's how big the stoma is. And it can potentially just be pulled out through there. That was a legitimate fear of mine. So, whatever. Yeah, I realized he didn't know that. But still, I was like 15 at the time, I think. No, not 15. No. No, I was living in my apartment. So I was like early 20s. Can't remember exactly. However, where I was in 2008. And then there was another time recently, like last year. I don't like the lake bags. I wear the overnight drainage bags 24/7. I was here. Everybody else was at the campgrounds. This was last year. And the dog was here. My sister's dog. The one you heard whining. And the reason I got up and got dressed before I let him out and put my shoes on before I let him out was this. This Memorial Day weekend last year. They were all at the campground. I stayed here because I needed to do an enema before I left for the campground. So I was going to do it that Friday morning. And then my brother-in-law was going to come pick me up and bring me down there. So I get up to let the dog out. So he heard me get up and immediately was excited. It's like, oh, I get to go out. So I felt bad, so I got up and I didn't put my shoes on. I still had my PJs on. And immediately he starts jumping. And she doesn't really jump that much anymore. A little bit, but he will stop if you tell him now. So progress has been made. Just a smidge. But at this point, he was a jumper. So I braced myself up against the counter. The back door is in the kitchen, right off from my bedroom. And I just pulled myself along the counter to get to the door. He decides he has to get outside before I can even open the door. And he washes himself. He's like all muscle. He's a coonhound mix. I don't know mixed with what. So his whole front is it's muscle. So he manages to squeeze between me and the counter. And he gets caught up in my tubing, pulls on it so hard that it disconnects from the stat lock. And I know he pulled on the catheter itself because it hurt. And I had just got it changed. Like 2 days before, the day before. So I don't like letting him out. And I don't if I don't have to, but I'm the only one here, so I had to. So that was the other thing that happened. So, okay, so they don't tell me that they can they can heal themselves up after so many hours, but using it like you're supposed to. So it had already been a week, and I hadn't noticed it closed. I wasn't really paying that much attention to the fact that it had closed. It had already closed for my appointment, which was like 2-3 days after the ER visit. In retrospect, I remember feeling it heal because now that I know, I had this pain around this in the stoma area. It felt like little pinpricks. Because after I had the SP2 put in, the 6 weeks that it was to heal with the catheter in, I felt the same pain. It was healing itself around the catheter, forming the tunnel. It was the same exact pain. So now I realized that's what that was doing. It was healing itself. I'm getting emotional talking about it because I was so upset that I lost the Petrov. Because so many things have changed. My entire routine has changed. Didn't think I would get emotional, but I am. So okay, I had several doctors at this clinic. It was a rotational clinic. The first doctor was amazing, and I wish he could have stayed. He ended up going to a different hospital that my dad actually goes to and sees him at this other hospital, but my insurance doesn't cover that hospital, so I couldn't follow him. If I could, I would have. Sorry. So anyway, there was him, and then there was another doctor. Um, these were all young people, probably about my age, if not younger. And he was really sweet and really great. I really liked those two. Um, cut to then, with the problems I was having. I get to this appointment, and I let my friend go in with me because I needed a second brain to remember facts for me because I was distraught. Not that I didn't realize I had lost the stoma at this point. I would after this appointment. It's Dr. Chicky Poo. That's who I called her, or what I called her, because I did not like this person. And we just did not get along. Like, there would be times when I knew I was having an infection in my bladder. And she was like, no, you're in chemi dark. Even when you don't have an infection. I'm like, well, that's not the only problem that's going on. Dr. Chicky Poo comes in and she examines me and she tells me that the stoma had closed. And I was upset and I didn't understand that. And I told her that. And she's like, yes, it closed. It starts to close within minutes of you're not doing like a regular cath. I got upset, very angry, and I was on the verge of tears. And I was like, nobody ever, ever, ever said anything like that to me, or else I would have demanded that somebody, like when I got to university, put a Foley in the stoma so it could heal. Because that's what they've done before. I was talking about it feeling like raw hamburger when I lived in my apartment. They had a Foley put in because it had to heal. I just remember being so mad that no one had done that, knowing that this would happen. They just let it close up. I was so upset. Because it had been my life for at least, 20 something years. I was like 9 when I got it done. And like 30-ish, 30, 29. So around there when this happened. This clinic that I went to at university. There's 3 different clinics in one. And first of all, for a while, when you called in, there was like the scariest, deepest voice on the voicemail. I wish I had a recording of it. I may look and see if I can find if somebody recorded it and put it online. It's ridiculous. Like, they must have gotten complaints about it because eventually it changed to a very chipper woman. But it was like this, it sounded like an, I don't know. It was just a very deep type voice. After about the 3rd time, it was hilarious. That first time, it was terrifying. And you would go in, and this is this old part of the hospital they were renovating at the time. At one point, they put that they were adding a handicap stall to the bathroom right outside from the waiting room. They didn't put a handicap stall. They just added an extra stall at the end of the hallway because I couldn't even get my walker into the stall. It's not a handicap stall. They just added an extra stall and slapped a handicap sticker on the outside of the bathroom. That's all they did. So, didn't stop me from using it because when I would go to this clinic, they would have you do a culture, and there was a bathroom, little teeny tiny bathroom inside where the patient exam rooms were, and they would make you go in there and do it. And it took me a minute. The catheterization process takes a few minutes. It's not quick in and out. And this one nurse would constantly knock on the door. But to the point where I would come out and there would be people waiting in these little chairs that they had right inside the walkway area, entrance area to the exam rooms, would be like staring at me. Like, are you okay? One time, they took me down to the exam room at the end of the hall. And I was sitting so that the door was open and I could see the entire hallway. And a woman came in a wheelchair, a little manual wheelchair. And she was either with her husband or her boyfriend. God bless him. He had to stand up and act as the door because she couldn't get her wheelchair into that little tiny bathroom, nor the one in the hallway. But she had to leave a culture. And at one point, he looks over, we make eye contact, and he's just like, I'm like, I feel you. Another time, after I had been fed up with using that restroom, I started using the one out in the hallway to leave the culture. And I came out one time out of the bathroom, and it was at the end of the appointment, so I didn't have to go back into the exam room. Because I was concerned that I had an infection. I wanted to leave a culture. I came back out of the bathroom, and they had an inmate sitting in that little there was like 4 chairs in this little walkway area that separated the hallway where the waiting area was from the hallway where the exam rooms were. It was just this much walking space. And there was a guy, an inmate, in an orange jumpsuit with shackles on his hand and his feet, and they were connected. I remember thinking, I'm not going through there. I was about to do it. I'm not going back through there. I will just sit up here on the bench in the hallway and wait for her to notice that I haven't come out in a while. The nurse. It was a different nurse, the one that used to knock on the door all the time. But I waited. I wasn't doing that. So yeah, that's my other attention. That squeezed in there for the chicky poo part. So it's just like whatever. So at that point, I knew the fully in my urethra wasn't coming out anytime soon. There's gonna be so much editing to do on this video. So I went to Children's after that and had an appointment with them, and they discussed options with me, and I ended up getting in to see Dr. Mahdi. So yeah, I'm with Dr. Mahdi at this point, and there was 3 options. I can't remember the name of all the options, but I chose the Superpubic because it made it seem like all my research, and my mom understood this the exact same way. She did her own research on it. Made it all seem like the catheter would be temporary. The catheter in the bag would be temporary while it healed. So that's what I thought. Because the other 2 options showed the bag is like attached to the skin, and I wasn't ready for that. So I thought I'll go with the part where I only have the bag for a temporary amount of time. Later on, I came to find out, no, the catheter is a permanent thing. So I was devastated about that. And then I found out that I couldn't really wear tight-fitting clothes. And at the time, I was starting to build up a wardrobe that consisted of leggings and like long shirts. I liked the time that were loose fitting throughout here, but like elastic around the waist. I don't know what they're called. I'll put it up here. I had so many pairs of leggings I had to get rid of. I gave them to my mom. I don't know if she ended up donating them or keeping them for herself. So I do wear pants on occasion in the wintertime when I absolutely have to, like when it's just too cold to wear a skirt and I'm not going to urology. I'm going to urology. I wear leg warmers and a long skirt in the wintertime. But my wardrobe mostly consists of dresses and skirts now, which I've gotten used to. All of it is a routine now. The time was just, oh. And the procedure to have it done sucked. I don't want to say that it would suck for everybody like it did for me. I think the circumstances in which it was done for me or what sucked. First of all, they had trouble finding a vein to do the IV because they do the procedure while you're awake to put the stoma in. Is they have to like put you on the X-ray table and they make the incision, put the thing in to start the tunnel. I'm gonna call it tunnel. I know there's a better word for it, but I'm gonna call it tunnel. And they go in a little bit, and then they have to take an X-ray. So you have to like hold your breath and then let it out. So you have to be awake for the procedure. But what they do is they give you an IV, and they're supposed to give you pain medication through the IV, so it's not horrible. Well, they couldn't get an IV in at first. So I have a picture of it. I'll have to put a picture up now of me in the bed before the procedure with this huge pillow thing. It was a blanket, but it was like they filled it up with air and it was warm. So it just like woke up all of my veins. And they eventually put the IV right here. And there's a really good vein right about there. Which was a mistake. Because then I had to not do this for the entire time. And not at one point did the lady the nurse who stayed above my head think to hold my thumb for me. Every once in a while, I let my thumb relax and it pinched off pain medication. So this procedure is horrible. It's not good for me. So if you have the procedure, make sure they put it in an area where you can't kink the medication going through. You can't stop it from going through. Just disclaimer, do this. Make sure it's in a hand area. Or your feet. They used to do that all the time because if they couldn't get vein in my hands because I had very little feeling in my feet. So there was that. And on top of that, the doctor who did the procedure was not Dr. Mahdi. I don't remember this doctor's name, and I haven't seen him since. If it weren't for the pain that I was experiencing, it would have been hilarious because he had nicknames for all of the instruments that they were using. And only he knew what the nicknames for all of the instruments were. The nurses were so confused. All of the surgery team people were so very confused. And more comical had I not been in pain. I would finally get out of that. And they left fully my urethra and they changed it, but they left the catheter in there too. So I've got 2 catheters coming out of me at this point. And the catheter that they used for the SP stoma was weird. It was small, it was very thin, and it had like 3 ends to it. Like the part that they really pumped the balloon up, there was 2 of those. At one point I remember it had stopped working and it was primarily coming out of the SP catheter. So I ended up taking out the other catheter, myself. Which was weird. It didn't hurt. I thought it would. And I don't trust just deflating the balloon with the syringe. So I ended up cutting that part. You can cut it and all the water will leak out. All the water will come out that way. So it's a foolproof way of knowing that the balloon is empty. So I did that. And I pulled the catheter, the urethra catheter out. Use the guide wire. It must be like his favorite thing because he did it a couple more times. Like there was one time I came into his office and nobody could get the new catheter in. So they had to call him. He was in the facility, but he was in a different part of the facility in surgery. Thankfully, he was there and not at downtown for this appointment. So they had to call him, and he had to put the catheter in. But anyway, my mom comes to this appointment, and she's in the room with me. It was so painful. I don't know if everything was just raw and still healing or whatever, but it was painful him putting the guide wire in. Like the times since then, it hasn't been that bad. Like it felt a little uncomfortable, but not too bad. But this time it hurt. So I remember they had given me tramadol for pain, and I only needed it once. So I had several more. So I took one right before the appointment. Now the disclaimer. If you know that you're going to go do something like this and it's going to be painful and you have the pain medication to take it an hour before the appointment. Because you got to give it time to kick in. I'm an idiot. I didn't realize this at the time, that it takes an hour for it to kick in. I do now. I had several more and I would use them whenever I would go in to get a catheter change until I ran out. So it had not kicked. It kicked in afterwards. So on the way home, I felt fine. I was actually in a really good mood. My mom even commented on it. So nobody ever explained to me about keeping the area dry and whatnot, which I realize now probably should have been common sense, but sometimes you don't know. You have to explain these. They said clean it. That's all they said. They said clean it, which I do. Now, what I do is I clean it. I put Aquaphor around it, around the catheter and the surrounding area too, like the whole fold of my skin area. And then I put a small square of gauze and I fold it open so it's like a rectangle. Put a piece of tape and I put that behind the catheter on my belly. And then I take a large square of gauze and I cut it almost all the way up. About this much is left. And then I slip it on the other side of the catheter and I put it up over the other square. And I tape it down, fold it in under, in the fold of my skin. So I do this. You have to wash it, dry it, and then put the cream on. I do it every other day whenever I do an enema. So that's every other day. There's been so many trips to the ER. They started out, I think, I want to say with a 14. I've had a 14, a 16, and 18. I've had 12. Because I went to the ER at one point because it stopped working. And it wasn't quite appointment time to go in and get it changed yet. And they didn't have the right catheter size. Or they did, but it was latex. I can't remember. So they just put in a 12. So he has since dilated it. I think he's dilated it twice now. And the second time he put in, let me check. It is, I want to say it's a 20. No, I can't turn it. It's a 20. It's a 20. which is the biggest size I've had so far. He tried to under 22, and like he had an 18, I believe. When he dilated it, he put an 18 in. And he was like, when you come back for your follow up, we're gonna put in a 22. That did not happen. I don't think he was there for that appointment. I think it was like the nurse practitioner, and she was like, this is not gonna happen. So they ended up with a 20, which he was fine with. I love when the doctor says to do something and the nurse or nurse practitioner is like, no, we're not gonna do that, we're gonna do this. I love that. So like, no, he's crazy, we're not gonna do that. They did try. It was kind of painful, but they, yeah, eventually changed their minds with the 20 in. And it's been great. It almost got clocked one time. Like I had a lot of sediment, but I got it. I got it out. It being bigger, it's a lot easier to flush it out. And I haven't had that much sediment in a while, so that's good. So yeah, that has been my SP2, my journey from a child mouth to an SP2. Well, cathing normally to having a metrophenough to getting an SP2. That has been my journey. This is probably going to be the longest video. I'm looking at an hour and 16 minutes on my camera right now. So I will try and condense it down so it's not so daunting. If I have to, I'll make it a two-parter. I thought I would have to do half of this after my niece arrived, but she hasn't arrived. Either that or she went next door to my parents. I don't know. I didn't get a message from her dad, so okay. That was fun. Glad you come on this journey with me. Bye.